Pardon us, pardon me, I mean, DA Wrestling, Smackdown time. We're going to talk a Smackdown today. Right? Bloodline gets title shots at the tag titles of DIY next week on Smackdown. Cody has some words and wants to meet up with Solo next week on Smackdown before SummerSlam. Solo plugs Roman Reigns. But today, first, we're going to start off the main event match of on SmackDown. It was BAYLEY and Michin versus Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. Money in the Bank winner, that is Tiffany Stratton. To be honest with you, it was more or less a handicap match the entire time. Nia Jax basically took out Michin way before the match even started. So the majority of the match was literally a 2-on-1 handicap match for the majority of the match. BAYLEY put in a strong effort. She had a lot of good offense into the match as well. But it was pretty much dominated mostly by Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax, mainly because it was really just 2-on-1 the entire time. So at the end, but what happened was, though, they beat her up so badly when Michin was trying to get back in, Nia Jax would run over and take out Michin to get it for the rest of the match. Right? To a certain point, though. A lot of moves there. BAYLEY tried her best to keep up with everybody there. Had a lot of good offense. Eventually, Michin did make her way into the ring, right? About almost close to the end of the match. Put us a fiery fury to try and get the win for her team. Fortunately, it wasn't enough, though. What ended up happening was that Nia Jax ended up pinning the champion. So we're about a week away or so from SummerSlam, and Nia Jax has pinned BAYLEY, the women's champion. Now, we are also a week away, too. Now, wrestling logic for some people, we'll see what happens on SmackDown. Is BAYLEY going to be standing tall at the end of SmackDown? Will that give us the glimpse of the future as to whether or not Nia will win? Or is this the glimpse of the future? Maybe Nia will win. Or is it just a ploy and BAYLEY's still going to walk out and maybe have Tiffany Stratton cash in on her at SummerSlam? So just see what's going to go on here, because right now it's looking like Stratton will cash in on BAYLEY. At least that might be the plan. Or she's going to wait till maybe a weekend Nia and cash in on Nia. Now, Nia's been cashed in before. If I'm correct, Alexa Bliss cashed on her a number of years ago. Now, we may do that again. She's really good, close friends with Alexa Bliss at the time. I think she still is, though, like actual outside WWE. But there's a good chance that we go that route again with Tiffany Stratton, who is very close to Nia right now on TV, might very well cash in on her at SummerSlam if Nia wins, or maybe later down the line. So we might even get Nia BAYLEY 2 in Germany, and maybe Stratton does it there. Who knows? So either way, I think Stratton is going to be that women's champion on SmackDown sometime soon. Question is, when will that be? Your guess is as good as mine. So we'll have to wait and find out, see what goes on with that later on down the line. Now, Bloodline was in the Gauntlet match. Now, Bloodline ended up getting the tag team title shot next week on SmackDown before SummerSlam. How they got there was interesting, though. At the beginning of the show, Nick Aldis was seen talking to the Bloodline, telling Solo Sikoa that, hey, Tonga Loa cannot compete today because he had a patch in his eye from last week's Kevin Owens scraping his eye. So they said, you can't compete tonight. You guys can't be in it, unfortunately. Solo pipes up and says, well, hold on a second. Tama Tonga still be in it, but it says Bloodline. Jacob Fatu is in the Bloodline. So they inserted Jacob Fatu into the match with Tama Tonga to go in the Gauntlet match for the tag team title tournament. Mini tournament, you want to call it. And all this was perfectly fine with this. And it makes sense, like Bloodline, like it says Bloodline. It doesn't say anything about being the Guerrillas of Destiny. Sure, I shouldn't call them that, right? Or does it specifically say Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga? So it just says Bloodline. And quite frankly, this was a really good Gauntlet match here, right? It really started off with Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin versus Legado. Now, Baron Corbin's really come a long way from the time he was before. I still like they're calling him a lone wolf again, but he is tagging with Apollo Crews. So I don't know how much of a lone wolf he truly is. But I really like this dynamic between Corbin and Crews. Corbin's really starting to grow on me too. And the guy, by the way, probably has some of the best music by far by anybody. Like they had Bring the Darkness, which is done, I believe, by Tommy Beck, and Tommy Beck and Bad Wolves, or maybe it was just Tommy Beck on his own. But that was really neat. But his new music's really cool too. It's killer. It's the same as he had kind of in NXT close to the end when he did the whole character change. So basically Apollo Crews and Corbin, well, we got Parligado in a pretty quick pace match. It did last through another commercial break. But Apollo Crews and Corbin ended up winning. And the next people in the gauntlet match was the Street Profits. Now, Street Profits basically pretty much ran the floor on this one. They ended up beating Barry Corbin and Apollo Crews. Right. Next up after that was Pretty Deadly. Now they came out, they pretty much dominated most of the time against the Street Profits. So also the top Profits were kind of tired going into that second match, back-to-back match. They showed in the back too during this whole time that DIY was watching to see who they're possibly going to be facing. I think they kind of knew who they're going to be facing at this point, but they kept on watching the match to make sure to see what's going on. Street Profits ended up, after the Pretty Deadly dominated the Street Profits for most of the match, Street Profits ended up hitting the finisher off the top rope with Tez coming off them. And they also almost like a pseudo doomsday device that Legion of Doom used to do. They ended up winning that match and brought the OC out. Now, this is kind of where I got a little more excited here because I looked at the card and go, okay, it's OC now, so next one's match will probably be the Bloodline. Right? I was really looking forward. I was really kind of hoping that OC was going to beat the Street Profits, and I think that'd be for anybody who's fond of New Japan Pro Wrestling and the Bullet Club, seeing Gallows and Anderson against Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, I think would have been fantastic to see. I'm hoping we kind of do get a chance to see that in the WWE. But honestly, the OC did not win because I did say earlier that Street Profits did run the table basically after that. They ended up beating the OC, kind of maybe a little bit shocking wise. At this point, though, too, they were extremely tired. Fontes Ford was really showing how tired he was. And they ended up having to face the Bloodline next. So basically, the Bloodline just came and just picked the bones off. Right? Picked what was left of them. Right? They looked like they might win, though. Right? They kind of were beating up Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga came like a couple times off the rope with Montez Ford. They were dominating the White Blood time. And when they started getting the advantage, though, all of a sudden Jacob Fatu comes in and just destroys everybody. They're really booking Jacob Fatu like this, very similar to how they booked Solo Sikoa originally, when he was like considered as the enforcer of the original Bloodline. So they're really booking Jacob Fatu really good, and it's great. Like I'm really liking Jacob Fatu in WWE. I like the Samoan Werewolf thing they're doing with him, or as he has done on the past on thing. It's really cool. Like I like the character. I like the look. He sold the DDT on Montez Ford and just dominated and blew him up after that, and gained the win. So they announced that next week. I said next week the Bloodline will be taking on the tag team champions DIY. And look, it's hard for me to sit here and say to you honestly that DIY is going to win. I don't see it. It's possible they lose. It's possible Bloodline loses. I just don't know what you're gonna. If they lose, what's gonna be the reason? Right? Is Jimmy gonna come back then and cause them to lose? Right? Will it be possibly the new signee Hikuleo coming in and maybe costing them to lose? Obviously, Tama Tonga is Hikuleo's brother, so I'm wondering if maybe that might play a factor. But it means to see what goes on in that tag team title match next week on SmackDown, the night before SummerSlam. It's going to be a big SmackDown because we're going to end up having Cody Rhodes have a meeting with Solo Sikoa. Now, Cody was based in Japan. He's been in Osaka, Japan with the Raw brand over the past number of days, doing a couple of shows. They did one in Osaka, they did one in Tokyo. They showed some highlights of those matches. Like some of the stuff that was going on there. It was really cool because they did Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles in Osaka and I believe also in Tokyo. So that was really cool. AJ did the whole Bullet Club stuff because he spent a lot of fun time there. Finn Balor apparently, from what I understand, celebrated a birthday in Japan. So he got to perform in Japan as well. So he had a lot of good time there. They did a lot of really cool matches by the looks of it. Asuka was there in Japan. She didn't wrestle, obviously, because due to her ACL, I believe it is. But look at it. But anyway, Cody, the sit-down interview, saying how he possibly, by the looks of it, has underestimated Solo. Like, because he talked to Solo last time, he said he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to be it. And he thinks now he was wrong. Because Solo's really got, they've really built Solo up to this the dominant, almost like a mob boss in a sense. Like the Bloodline's like a mob. But this version is more like a lot more of a violent version of a mob boss. So it's really interesting to see how they're really put. So I was looking forward to seeing Cody. How Cody, they said, wait to see your answer. It was like a video they posted earlier for having when he was in Japan. Cody, on the other hand, though, right, said, well, I'm waiting for your answer. So at the end of the show, Solo Sikoa, with the rest of the bloodline, Sister says he accepts uh, his challenge to meet him there solo, one on one, no pun intended there, one on one, nobody else around, no bloodline, no nothing. And they're going to talk. So it's going to be interesting. It's probably going to close the show next week, possibly open it, but I'm guessing more or less going to close the show now. But the interesting part about this was, though, too, that Solo Sikoa said, Cody, you're going to acknowledge me. And said, if Roman Reigns has a problem with it, he can acknowledge me too, just like you, and everybody else should acknowledge me as well. It seems like he's really plugging Roman Reigns for SummerSlam. It looks like we're going to get the return of Reigns at SummerSlam. If not, probably sometime soon. I think it all depends really on what happens at SummerSlam or whether or not what happened maybe after SummerSlam, right? Because I'm thinking right now, I'm wondering right now if Solo's going to, if they're going to give that title to Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. Like Cody can always get it back. That's not going to be an issue. But if Solo, the way I look at it is this: if the Bloodline wins, it's a good possibility. Wins the tag title, it's a good possibility that Solo wins that title, unless Roman Reigns shows up. I think they're really pushing Reigns. I think Bates to come back. I don't. It's a good possibility it's going to happen. The question is how and what's going to happen. Is he going to cost Solo? Right? Or is he going to let Solo win? And they're going to have come back and he's going to challenge Solo, say, in Berlin. Or possibly Bad Blood. Because you could do Bad Blood even with Cody if you want to, or Roman Reigns against Solo for that title. Or Roman costs Solo the title chance, Cody retains, then you can still do Bad Blood no matter what. So I'm interested to see what goes on if they're going to even if Reigns is going to be there. I'm thinking right now he is. I think it's a good possibility that Roman Reigns is at SummerSlam and does cost Solo. So I'm interested to see what happens. I'm definitely excited to see what happens with this SmackDown here because we don't know yet if Reigns will come back. We don't know when he will be. We know he is scheduled because right now the rumor is also a Bloodline Civil War at Survivor Series. So if that's going to happen, Reigns, we're not that far off. We still have, it's August, it'll be August when Reigns comes back. Then you have September, October, then November. So November, if maybe like 3 or 4 months. So it's a good chance you can still build that. You might have a few matches here and there, right? But I think the tag titles are on the line there. If they win the tag titles, you might very well see Jimmy come back and maybe cost the Bloodline tag titles, or they win the tag titles and then they come back. Jimmy comes back. It's interesting to see what's going to happen there. The rest of SmackDown, yeah, LA Knight. Basically, first match tonight was LA Knight versus Escobar. Now, LA Knight was coming to the ring. They had him come in the ring and saying, basically going to take Escobar to school, teach him a bit of history because apparently he has to learn from history. Show him that they beat him the last time. He's going to beat him again, albeit it was a King of the Ring. It was a King of the Ring qualifying. It was a qualifying match. LA Knight got in, but he also beat Logan Paul in the process. LA Knight, there's Escobar. Good match, a lot of fun. Escobar basically lost to LA Knight after Logan Paul interfered in the match, tried to knock out LA Knight with his special hand or brass knuck hand or whatever. He missed. LA Knight clotheslined him. Escobar nearly had won. Then all of a sudden, he had him up. LA Knight drops down, gives the brunt for his trauma. 1, 2, 3, gets the victory. Fun match. After the match, though, Logan Paul attacks LA Knight. It goes really bad for Logan Paul. LA Knight starts beating him up, and then Escobar comes back in starts beating him up, right, with Logan Paul. So they're common enemies. Okay, common enemies. So we're gonna beat the hell out of them together. Which basically at the end of it, Logan Paul goes to the top rope, does his special frog splash, if you want to call it, leaves him laying at the end of it. So LA Knight right now is laid out by Logan Paul. I think LA Knight still be the one that wins this match at SummerSlam. I know it's in Cleveland, but I know maybe want to have the the hometown guy win, but he's not that most popular guy, to be honest. Like, he's very well hated. But I mean, he's a very good wrestler. Like, if you ever seen a Logan Paul match in the WWE, you really should take a look at his WrestleMania matches, possibly the one in Jeddah against Roman Reigns. That was a hell of a good match. So the guy's a gifted wrestler. There's nothing against his wrestling or any of those things. He's a gifted wrestler. His heel notch is very, very good. He's well hated. But I do see LA Knight finally getting this US title at SummerSlam. I think he's going to beat Logan Paul for it. And we're going to see what happens after that. I'm sure going to do a rematch, possibly in Berlin, possibly at Bad Blood, because there was a lot of bad blood there to begin with. So we'll see what goes on with that. Other things on the card that happened. They had an interview with Naomi. She talked about how Blair Davenport doesn't understand why Blair Davenport hates her so much. She wants to show her how she could feel the glow and all those things. But the funny part was, though, when they're doing the interview with Byron Saxton, looked like in the background was actually Blair Davenport just watching, and nobody really acknowledged that. I thought it looked like Blair Davenport to me. I could be wrong. It could be somewhere down below. If you think you're wrong, please comment down below. But it's a good possibility it was Blair Davenport behind there. While that interview was going on, just to finish up there, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair came over to see their friend, talk about how they're going to handle their business. They got to talk to Fire and Dawn. Because Fire and Dawn keep on basically waving those tag titles around them, but they're not accepting any challenges. So Cargill and Bianca leave. They got to come to the ring. And they basically put the challenge out. Say, hey, we want to take the titles back. We're going to challenge you guys too. You're not going to be able to beat us. Fire and Dawn's music comes on. They end up sneak attacking them. Didn't go over very well, though. They both got basically thrown out of the ring. And it was announced next week on SmackDown, before SummerSlam, that it'll be Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Fire and Dawn next week on SmackDown for the Women's Tag Team titles. I don't see. It's a good possibility Cargill and Belair are going to win, but I'm waiting for this heel turn for either Belair or Cargill. I'm wondering if maybe it's going to happen here. It's a possibility, maybe not, but it's a possibility in my mind. I'd rather see Fire and Dawn really hold those titles for a while and go on a run with them. I think it'd be probably best for the division in general. Or, I mean, if you have them win it, they're just probably going to lose it somewhere down the line anyway again, right? Because if you have Belair and Cargill win that titles match, they're going to probably lose them down the line again. But then hopefully it leads to a heel turn. But I'm thinking this might be with a heel turn, because they might do something similar. Maybe they'll do something where Fire and Dawn win, and Belair just gets frustrated and just attacks Cargill. It's a match that we're waiting to see. Now, obviously, this might be a little too late for SummerSlam. You can still kind of get on the card. It's kind of a big enough match to get on the card. But I think they might end up, if they're going to do that match, they might do it in Berlin. Or maybe do it somewhere else, maybe possibly Survivor Series. So it makes me believe, too, that they might actually hold off on that, and maybe Cargill and Bianca will win those titles back the night before SummerSlam. It basically see what goes on, if that's going to happen or not. Other news also happened on there, too. Andrade is getting another match with Carmelo next week. Now, the first one the week before was a banger. It was a hell of a good match. Two excellent wrestlers be able to do whatever they do in the ring. Carmelo, well, they're doing an interview with Andrade. And Andrade basically said, they asked him, well, what do you want to do next? He goes, I think I want to go for the U.S. title. It's a great idea. LA Knight or Logan Paul versus Andrade. I'm excited for that. I think that's a great match. I think it's a great idea. But Carmelo Hayes comes in and says, you just beat me one time. Everyone has an off day. LeBron James, the greatest basketball player in the history of the planet. Not really, in my opinion. To me, I'm a Jordan guy. It's Jordan all the way in my books. But he basically said, everybody has an all night. It happens. He goes, well, okay. If you ask what you think. He ended up calling Carmelo Hayes brawny. So LeBron James' son. Uh, offended Carmelo a little bit. He wasn't too happy about that. So next week they're going to do it together. They're going to run it back again. I'm wanting to see. I'm hoping they just have Andrade win again. I'm assuming they're going to do a 50-50 booking here. Carmelo Hayes wins, and then they're going to have a rubber match somewhere in SmackDown. But I really hope they do something here with Andrade. It'd be a lot of good to see Andrade going for the U.S. title. And I'd be okay even with Andrade be as heel versus LA Knight. Because I don't think you can turn LA Knight heel right now at all, actually. He's too over. I think Andrade being the heel would be better off in the feud if LA Knight does win that win that U.S. title against Logan Paul at SummerSlam. And finally, A-Town Down calls out pound for pound, probably the best fighter, pound for pound best fighter, boxer on the planet, Terrence Crawford. You know what? Austin Theory gets thrown to the wolves again. All right. Waller was very upset that he got disrespected. That Terrence Crawford helped Cody Rhodes with a chair last week on SmackDown. He said demanded an apology. Terrence Crawford wasn't having it. Right. Waller basically just looks at him and says, "Hey, if you don't look at, Austin Theory up here is gonna beat you up and hit you and knock you out." He was like, "What?" Terrence Crawford ended up laying out Austin Theory. When this turn is gonna happen, or this split's gonna happen, I hope it happens soon. This guy is starting really, really irritating. Like, these guys constantly get thrown to the wolves, right? I mean, Waller's a perfectly good heel and a real piece of, his characters are a really big piece of garbage. So it'd be really, it'd be fine to, obviously Austin Theory is going to turn face on this one too. But I'm wondering if they're going to have Austin Theory obviously leave, get beat up by Waller, and possibly leave for a bit and come back with a new gimmick change or something for Austin Theory, because this whole A-Town Down thing just, in my opinion, has never worked. I don't believe it, right? So kind of like what John Cena said, I don't believe it, right? I mean, yes, he beat John Cena at WrestleMania a year and a half ago, but still, it just doesn't register to me. I don't find, maybe you guys find it different. Maybe you find Austin Theory much different than I do. I don't find Austin Theory that impressive at all to me. I just don't. That was basically SmackDown, but we do have some other news though too, kind of interesting news. Brock Lesnar. Now, it's been reported that Triple H was asked about Brock Lesnar's status with the WWE right now. Now, obviously, Lesnar was named in that lawsuit with the Vince McMahon. Well, right. So, but apparently, they asked Triple H, well, if they're going to bring him back, and Triple H pretty much put it this way: Brock right now, it's in Brock's hands. Brock is probably in Canada right now, which he lives in Saskatchewan, just outside of Regina, from what I understand, or Saskatoon, on a lovely compound, from what I gather. Watching his kids probably play hockey. I know his kids are really big into hockey. They know they're big Jets fans. So it's a possibility that Brock, when he wants to come back, he might come back. Or, I mean, it's also a different era, right? It's not the Vince McMahon era anymore. There's like all of a sudden Vince come out and say, "Well, we need something. Bring in Brock and let Brock just run through everybody." If that's the case, I kind of like to see Brock does come back. I like to see Brock do something else. I like to see Brock, instead of going for the world titles, which we've seen enough times and a lot of times. I mean, as much as I like Brock Lesnar, I think maybe him going for a U.S. title would be a lot of fun, or an IC title would be a lot of fun, or just something different for Brock. It doesn't need to be in the title picture, but like Triple H said, and historically has shown, Brock will do whatever Brock would like to do. And Brock has no problem doing a lot of things. To be honest, but it's for a while it's been there put on how Brock does whatever his own. That's fine. But Brock also he'll sell for a lot of people. Like, if you look at the matches he did with Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, AJ Styles, Roman, obviously, the guy he wants to entertain. He wants to make it fun for everybody, right? From what I understand, Brock's also one of those down-to-earth guys too. So we'll see. But yeah, he was, due to that lawsuit there, they might wait till everything calms down first, like really calms down, until possibly Brock comes back. If that does happen, Brock's also made his money. Brock probably at this point doesn't need to do WWE. If he wants to do it, he's going to do it because he wants to come back. He probably doesn't need to come back. So we'll see what happens there on Brock Lesnar. Anyway, that was SmackDown. That was a little bit of extra news. What's going on? SummerSlam is a week or so away. We will be probably doing. Hopefully, Doug will join me for predictions of SummerSlam. I don't know if he will be or not. Hopefully, he will be doing it with me. If not, you will be getting my predictions for SummerSlam. Run down the card, see how I feel about what I feel about it, what I think might happen, what might not happen. And hopefully, we'll hear what Doug has to say too. And hopefully, Doug will tell us. So, me and Doug might decide. One-on-one. Right now, we're pretty much tied as far as predictions goes. I beat him on one, he beat me on another one, and vice versa. I think so. I think we're tied two each. So one of us is gonna have a tiebreaker at some point here. But other than that, folks, that was DA Wrestling. That was SmackDown. That was everything there. Thank you very much. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all the things down below here. Hope you like the video down below here. I am Andrew Brazil, and have yourself a good on day.